How can I make $1 million?
Most skills today you can learn with 20 hours of focus. The world rewards people that have a growth mindset because your personality creates your reality. Is this a scam? Make yourself valuable so that the marketplace will reward you.
I thought I was going to be a professional soccer player because everybody that I played with told me I was, but little did I know the people that I was playing with were so bad that it made my skills stand out above everybody else.
Because if you do, you'll end up being very stupid. And I thought, what? Now I look back and I'm like, thank God.
There came a moment where reality sunk in. And this happens, I believe, for everybody. Your life is going one way and then reality kicks in.
You're a man, you're a woman. You have to take some accountability and responsibility.
You still have a long way ahead of you. There's so many things you can do.
If you want to change your reality, you have to change your personality. How do I get lucky?
Happiness is a prerequisite to struggle. So I'm just about to shoot an episode with one of my dearest friends and longtime clients, Shakir Hussyi. And the cool thing about Shakir is he actually built a $40 million business with just his laptop. So if you want to learn what is the best business to start in the digital age, how to get more clients, how to create products and services, and all you really need is a laptop, this is the episode for you. Make sure you watch it, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe in this channel. It helps us a lot. I'm looking forward to seeing you in this episode. Shaq, welcome to the show.
What's up, brother?
Good to have you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Excellent. So, as you know, this is a show about freedom. My first question to you is, what does freedom mean to you?
What freedom means to me is being able to live life on my own terms without having to be a slave to time, to other people's energy, and to other people's demands.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I've known you for a long time, one of my dearest friends. I've seen your ups and downs over the years. I want to start from the beginning. I know you were at one point a T-boy. Kind of take us back to that moment.
Oh my gosh. I haven't talked about this. Yeah. So I did construction work for my dad in his construction site. And they quickly, easily realized this guy is not qualified to do any construction work. He's just the boss's dad. So we're going to give him some jobs. And they would just tell me, go and, make tea. Not that I was any good at it. Or they would tell me, go get me cigarettes. And that's what I would do. And I would be carrying, bricks, making cement, plastering. Although, I was a terrible employee. But very quickly I realized I want to transition from doing the work to becoming a boss and having people work for me. And, I'd be working all day doing construction work, making like £35 a day in East London, $50 a day. And I had dropped out of university in my final year because I had learned about this thing called internet marketing, that you can place tiny little ads all over the internet and people from all over the world can come and find you. Now, obviously, today we have YouTube, Instagram, everyone's on it. But 15 years ago, that wasn't the reality. The reality was very different. We had Facebook was just coming up. And I had discovered that instead of me doing construction work and slaving away all day long for pennies, I could place ads on the internet and people from all over the world would buy my stuff and give me money. Like, that whole concept was just, poof. And I was like, that's what I want to do for as long as I can, and I'm willing to pay the price, whatever the price was. And that was my start.
That was your start, and then what was your first breakthrough?
First breakthrough was I was struggling to sell like most people. I was trying to sell low ticket programs, $10 programs, affiliate programs, network marketing programs, MLMs, multi-level marketing, potions, pills, lotions, everything under the sun. And my big breakthrough came when a guy from Malaysia bought a $2,000 digital product. I didn't create the product. I didn't create the funnel. I didn't create the website. I had no brand. I had no followers. But this dude from Malaysia bought a $2,000 digital program. I'm like, this is crazy. His name was Sarip bin Ahmed. And very quickly, the second guy bought. And he was a journalist from Thailand. And he bought a $10,000 product that I was promoting. These weren't even my products. I just promoted it online. And people from the other side of the world, remember, I'm this 21-year-old kid living in my parents' house, and I find two strangers. Those guys changed my life. Julian and Sarip. And they bought these high ticket programs. And I thought, I've never met them. It wasn't even my product. And they went through my funnel, my sales process, and they paid me. I'm like, all I have to do is do this 100 times, $10,000 a pop. That's $1 million.
So I have two objectives for this
Go for it.
interview. One is to obviously go into the details, the strategies, the tactics. If somebody wants to start a business in the digital age, on how they can go on to build a 6 and a 7-figure business. But before that, the prerequisite is to become a person who is able, who believes, who can, achieve those types of results. So you said two things that are very interesting. First, you saw there's a way to make money online. And then you took action and you had a breakthrough. But when people want freedom and when people want to go on this journey, most of them never, they might have the idea and then instantly they'll just, they don't suspend their disbelief as many of our marketing friends say. And then even if they want to pursue it, either a friend or a family member would say, no, what are you doing? That's stupid. Don't do that. Go back to school. Focus on what you're doing. Did you have moments where you're like, okay, well, I like this, but did you have obstacles and challenges that were stopping you from it?
Yeah, so I was very blessed. I got lucky. Alhamdulillah, all my success is down to luck and timing, man. So skills, but then also lots of luck and lots of timing. So I'm not going to make myself look like larger than life like maybe other people do. I don't care. I'm just going to say I got very lucky. How did I get lucky? Well, my dad used to take me to the Sunday markets in Brick Lane in East London. And when I would go, imagine, I was 10, 12 years old, and he would take me to these markets, right? And I would see people selling clothes, selling vegetables, selling this, selling that. And I would walk with my dad and I would tell myself that one day when I grow up, I'm gonna be like these guys. I'm gonna sell clothes, I'm gonna sell vegetables, I'm gonna sell all of these things, sell bikes. And then I remember there was a dude who was the back of the caravan. And everyone knows who this guy is because you've probably seen one of these characters in your life. And he'd have a big microphone and he'd sell a blender. He'd sell something, worth £200 for £20. And people would just line up. And I would just be so amazed by this. I would be like, wow. In my head, I would count how many people is he selling this blender, or he would get one of those orange peelers and he would sell this peeler. And I would think to myself, wow, I want to be like this guy. So when I turned 15 years old, that's exactly what I started doing. I would take mobile phones and I would start going to the markets. I'd put a crate on. I don't know if I ever told you this.
No, first time I'm hearing this.
Wow. And you've been my friend for now over a decade. Okay, so that's actually how I got good at selling. I would get those milk crates. You remember those milk crates? The glass bottle milk?
Ones, yeah.
Put a milk crate down. I would stand on top of it and I would say, all right, everyone, uncles, brothers, people of the market, I'm here today. I have this mobile phone, a Nokia 3210. Those were my best sellers. And I'd say this phone, you can use it. You can use it in this country. You can take it abroad. It's got SIM capability, blah, 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 GSM compatible, whatever that meant. And that's how I got my start, selling in public. So I didn't even understand the concept as much as rejection. Because I would say, hey, you want my mobile phone? And most people will just walk by. No, I don't want it. No, I don't want it. But that built up the courage and the confidence. So if I asked people for money and they said no, I'm like, that's fine. Today I sell $100,000, $250,000 different packages and business programs, right? But if you say no, that's totally fine. I don't take it personally. So I learned early on, 14, 15 years old, not to take things personally. And then I discovered eBay, where I can put out ads and I can take pictures of stuff and put it on there. And I remember I was 15, 16 years old, signing up for a PayPal account. And he said, confirm you are 18 years old. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to get caught? Let me just sell. And I would start selling stuff in my house. And then I would start asking my neighbors and friends and family, hey, what do you have? You know, my opening line was, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Do you have anything to sell in your house? They would be like, what? And I'd be like, hey, I'm on my way to becoming a eBay power seller. I charge no commission. What do you have in your house right now that I can sell on eBay? They were like, well, who are you? I'm like, I'm the guy from the neighbor. Do you know my dad? I'm that guy's son. That's how I got my start. And that, together with one more important thing, which a lot of people, they don't talk about this, maybe because they don't know. I actually paid this dude called Dan Pena like 25 grand to spend a week in his castle. And he talked about one of the characteristics of people that were super successful. And I'm not saying I'm super successful by any means whatsoever. But he said one of the characteristics was, at a young age, they were given so much love that they felt unstoppable. So I had a loving, generous, kind, sweetheart mother. I still do, mashallah. My parents are both alive. And I had a wonderful, amazing dad who was like, work hard, son, go out, but you have to do X, Y, Z. And then I had my lovely, now she passed away, my grandma. And she would let me get away with anything, because I was the only son at the time. Now I have, I come from a family of 6 now, but when I was growing up, I had 3 sisters and me as the only son. And in Asian families, they got this weird thing, if you're like the only son and you're the oldest, they just give you all this love. My grandma spoiled me. And because she spoiled me, I had this underlying belief, I can do anything and get away with it.
Yeah.
And I did. And I would get into trouble, but my sisters would take the heat, and my grandma would say, don't say anything to him. And I'd be like, yeah, don't say anything to me, And here's what that created. A lot of self-confidence at a young age. So when I got presented with opportunities, I wasn't like, oh, is this going to fail? Oh, what is people going to think of me? Nah, I'm like, I don't care if it doesn't fail. I'm going to start another one.
Yeah.
I started like 8, 9 different businesses before I became go into digital marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like 20 years old, and all of those businesses failed. And I'm like, I'm not going to stop, because I wanted freedom. And the desire for that came because I saw people that were educated, got the degrees, were older than me, and they hated their lives. And I thought, I can't follow that. I mean, like almost everyone in my family, they went to university, they got educated. I'm the only one. No degree, dropped out in my final year of university. My parents still question, do I have a real job? But I wanted the freedom so bad, and I found people that I could model, and I paid the price.
You can show love in many different ways. You can actually love the child. You can let them explore. You can let them make mistakes. And no matter what they do, you can encourage them to fulfill whatever it is that they want to do. On the other hand, you can love your child by stopping them from danger, by telling them to stop, and by telling them not to do this and not to do that, or force them, whether it's in school or whatever the system is that you want them to follow, which then you take away unintentionally their confidence, which is the majority. So you've been lucky in your case because you had people to push you, but most people are on the latter, where parents that love them, but they just want to protect them, and then they grow up with no confidence. Rejection becomes this painful thing they try to avoid. How do you advise those people to overcome those limitations?
When you're young, you can't when you're young, you blame your parents for all the things that you didn't achieve and blah, 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 right? But there comes a point. Look, after you're 18, 19 years old, you're a man, you're a woman. You have to take some accountability and responsibility. People don't like this sort of advice, but when I see someone that's not going out there pushing themselves and they've just stayed stuck, or they're stuck, whether it's a job that they hate, a life that they're living, and they're not living to their true potential, it's like you got lazy, you got arrogant. I wouldn't call you stupid, but you've let yourself go because you have no self-accountability.
Yeah.
And if your parents didn't give you that, then you have to develop friendships and friends. Like, for example, being very direct, a lot of people in my family, they're very unhealthy, right? It's only after I started hanging out with healthier friends and friends that are jacked and they go to the gym and they call me out if I order a cheesecake. I'm like, I'm not having no desserts. How many times have I been with you in Dubai? 2 weeks, even a month. And I'd just go without touching a single dessert.
Yeah.
Think about it. We've been to some of the finest restaurants in the world, mashallah. And you're eating your dessert. And I said, no, I can't do desserts.
Sharing my dessert.
You're sharing desserts and I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. I buy it for everyone, but I'm not touching that dessert. It's because these are disciplines I've had to learn by myself. I had to hold myself accountable to a higher standard. What I find is if people don't have a specific personality trait, they think it's okay. They're just going to... The world doesn't reward people that are like that. The world rewards people that have a growth mindset because your personality creates your reality. If you don't like your reality, you don't like your life, you don't like your wife, you don't like your kids' relationship with yourself, you don't like your health, you don't like your business, you don't like your investments, you don't like your spirituality, is because one level before that is the actions that you've taken. One level below that is the beliefs that you have that shape your thinking and your personality. So if you want to change your reality, you have to change your personality. How do you change your personality? You have to get over your limiting beliefs. You have to create new belief system. You know, like recent one that I've developed over the last few years and how I lost over 25 pounds is food is a function and a fuel. It doesn't have to taste good. I'm like, what? Food doesn't have to taste good? What? Because my whole life I grew up with rice and curries and all of this stuff. I thought the purpose of food is supposed to taste good. Then I meet my friends. One of them is super jacked and he's like, no, man, egg whites and broccoli and fish and chicken. I'm like, what? He's like, only protein, no sauces, no flavoring. I'm like, that sounds bland and boring. But food is a function and for fuel. You get it? Yeah. Food for fuel. Food doesn't have to taste good. Yeah. I'm like, wow, what a belief system. That's an eye-opener. Now I can choose to say, oh, that sounds good, bro. Or I can choose to say, I'd like to embrace that. I'd like to embrace that. And from now on, that's the new belief system. And it's the same thing with making money. How many times have I said to you, this is what you have to do? But then you'll have different beliefs about making money because you grew up different, right? It's funny because I was on the way coming here, I was with my friend's kid and my friend, and you know, he's a young kid and he's just got himself a little mobile phone. And I told him, I said, you know, you're very smart. Your dad is very smart. Don't let your brain go to waste. And he said, what do you mean? Because he starts telling me about the app store or the, you know, whatever Play Store or something on his phone. And you can download all those apps. Apps meaning games. And I said to him, if you have, and you start playing these games at a young age, your brain won't develop. And he's, 6 years old. He's like, yeah, my mom told me I'm going to go Quran class. I said, you stick with Quran class. Your brain is going to develop at a different rate. I grew up, and my dad at a young age said to me, don't play computer games, because if you do, you'll end up being very stupid. And I thought, what? I don't want to be stupid when I grow up. And I'm not saying one or the other. I'm just saying this is what my dad gave me advice. Now I look back and I'm like, thank God. SubhanAllah. My dad gave me that advice. He's like, don't play computer games. Play the game of business. Yeah. Then you'll get rich. Then you'll make money. So I never grew up with computer games. I had it in my house, PlayStation, whatever toy station there was. But I just never had an inclination to go and spend time. That's why I know you're my best friend and you love sports. That's why I can't tell you anything about sports. You went to the World Cup, right? In Qatar. I went to Google and I typed in who won the football team, the matches. Argentina. And I took a screenshot. I said, hey, there you go. I saved myself a plane ticket to Qatar and time. Because these are things I don't value. Yeah. You become a product of whatever you value. Yeah. So if you value making money, if you value learning, if you value growth mindset, I want to learn. Last night I was having dinner with one of my friends here in Dubai. He's been following my stuff for years, but yesterday was the first time we met in person. And he took me out to some fancy restaurant and whatever. We're having a good time. And this guy was making as much as $3.5 million in a single month. And so last night we dropped him off to his mansion, villa on the Palm. It's like a $10 million. He spends like 700 grand a year on rent. 700,000 US dollars just on rent. Rent. And I'm like, wow. And this is his second year. He's just wired another chunk. And you have to pay all up in front. No monthly payments, none of that stuff. No discounts, just pay it straight up. And as we dropped him off, he looked back. And I was sitting in the back because he's a big dude. I let him sit in the front. And he looks back and he goes, hey, man, I just want to let you know, like, I've learned so much from you guys. I'm always about learning. And I was like, that's why he's successful. Because he has a growth mindset. What can I learn? Who can I develop myself into? Whereas you meet someone who's struggling with weight, business, money, and you meet them 5 years later, I can assure you 95% of the time, they're still the same. They're still struggling with the same thing.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a growth mindset. They're lazy. They get arrogant. They let society dictate where they should stay. And they think, oh yeah, I don't even like saying because I don't want to even affirm any of these affirmations to myself. Have you noticed? I always talk. They will say stuff like they are an introvert, or they grew up like this, or their dad didn't support them. Bro, you got to grow up.
Yeah.
When I was 19, I'll tell you this story, right? Because obviously we've been friends for so long and you don't know these stories. But I actually grew up and my dad had a heart attack when he was in his mid-30s, right? And so he transitioned from working in a factory with Turkish people. That's why he speaks fluent Turkish. He speaks like 4 or 5 languages. So he left the factory and he basically started going into property. And the first 2 years he worked for someone to learn the game, right? So he learned on someone else's dime, someone else's mistakes, and then he go into the property game. And I saw him basically, mashallah, he done well for himself, building this property empire. And I thought to myself, well, when I'm 18 years old, dad's just going to give me everything. I mean, that's the belief system that I developed. So from a young age, I always thought to myself, I don't have to do anything in life because dad's just going to give me all of these things. And I remember turning 18 years old, going home, and I'm like, Dad, you told me that you're going to sign everything over to me, right? I'm 18 now. When am I getting the restaurants, the properties? Like, when am I going to get everything? He takes one look at me. I remember because we used to live in this council flat back in the day. And he says, son, you go out, you make your own money. And I'm a kid, bro. Like, I was so angry. I was like so flustered. Wow. I thought I was just going to be given everything. And there was an element of, I'm going to prove it to him. I'm going to go prove it to him. And I thought, if I make 6 figures a year at the age of 30, I'm doing all right. Little did I know, Allah had other plans for me. My first year online marketing, my first full year, I made 120K. My second year, I made 275K. My third year, I made $1.2 million. So I became a millionaire, mashallah, at 23 years old. And then since then, I've done a few other things.
Yeah. See, I think there are a few different phases in life, right? The first phase, let's call it the belief building phase. This is when you're young, you're influenced directly or indirectly by your parents, your environment, your school, and you think, like in my case, I'll just tell you my story. I thought I was going to be a professional soccer player because everybody that I played with told me I was, but little did I know, the people that I was playing with were so bad that it made my skills stand out above everybody else, that their reality and the actual superstars' reality, where actual pros are going, it wasn't the same. So when I went to college, till that moment, I thought I was going to be pro. But there came a moment where reality sunk in. And this happens, I believe, for everybody, where your life is going one way, and then reality kicks in. And you have to make a decision in that moment. And that's what you said, either you have a growth mindset or you have a fixed mindset. This was 2005. I'll never forget it. I flunked out of college. Soccer career was done. The love of my life didn't love me back. So I thought to myself, that was it. For 2 months, I spent hiding in my parents' attic. I literally lost like someone that was stuck in a refugee camp. I was losing weight. I wasn't eating. I wasn't interested. Because why? Because the reality that I had and the actual reality weren't aligned anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how I got into reading. That's how I got into challenging the belief. So one of them came, okay, listen, you're not going to be a professional soccer player. That's fine. But you're like 21, right? Like
Yeah.
you're like 20, you're in your early 20s. You still have a long way ahead of you. There's so many things you can do. So that was the first thing. The second thing was like, all right, you flunked out of college. Worst case, you can go back, but guess what? There are so many other people who flunked out of college and became successful.
Yeah.
Final part was the person that you love doesn't love you back, but guess what? There are so many other people that know your value and they're worthy of your love.
Yeah.
Why not give someone else a chance? And that gave me all these new options. However, most people, once that one door they've kind of had an eye on their entire life closes, they never look another way. And they either stuck in a job they don't like, in a relationship they don't like, in a career they don't like, and this is how they spend the rest of their lives. So for you, clearly, these moments that came, these obstacles that came, you just found a way to learn what skills you needed to overcome them.
Yeah. You know, I truly believe, one, it's like luck, timing, skills, mental resilience. You know, these things we've all heard before, but I think it happens in stages. In the beginning, you have to have belief that you deserve more or you can have more, right? And then you have to go and take the action, and then majority of the time you have to be okay with things not working out. I think a lot of the times the reason why people don't do stuff is because they think if it doesn't work out, they're gonna look bad in front of other people. No one cares about you, man. Like, that's the reality. No one's thinking about you. Every single time you post and you think, oh, this person's gonna, no one's thinking about you, right? It's like no one even knows you. Yeah. Chill out. And so I think people get attached to that end outcome way before it even happens. And that paralyzes them from doing the work. And the work is required, right? Whether you call it smart work, hard work, sacrifice, it doesn't matter. Something has to be given, right? So you have to do something, an action that creates a reaction, the cause and effect. The reason why you don't make $1 million a year is actually because you haven't done all the things required. Money and success and wealth is a lagging indicator. So if you want to make money, it's the actions. Just like I told you to buy Bitcoin when it was a few $1,000 and Solana under $20, right? And so if today Solana's trading at $150, it was at 210, whatever, right? But 6 months ago or a year ago, it was only $20, $8, right? So the action of today is a reaction and the cause of 6 months, a year ago. What did you do before? So the reason why some people can make millions of dollars is because they've built the foundation of skill acquisition and system acquisition. So system acquisition is stuff like your offers, your products, your team, your operations, your finances, cash flow, all of this stuff. And the skills is, what skills have you learned? So what happens is, people that want freedom, they say, I want freedom. I want to work for myself. I want to be financially free. I want to have time freedom. I want to come to Dubai like this. I came here on a whim to come and see you guys for the weekend. And people want this. They see it. But what they don't see is to get there, there's work that's required. Whatever that work is, maybe you need to publish content. Maybe you need to put yourself out there. Maybe you need to develop copywriting skills or being able to communicate with people on videos or in person. But people don't want to do that. They just want the end result.
Which is exactly why I did this. As you know, you being one of my clients a few years ago, I work with a lot of successful entrepreneurs. And the end result is that they're successful. That's what the people see. They're rich. That's what the people see. They have this lifestyle. They can travel the world. Their kids are going to the best schools. They have the beautiful house. That's what people see. But people don't see the work that they went through to get there. And the other thing people don't see is that they were where you are today.
Yeah. Everybody starts off the same way. Everyone starts off the same way.
They had, a problem.
Yeah.
They were broke, or someone told them they can't amount to anything. They had something that could have stop them from achieving everything that they have today, but they just followed the same path. Well, I know you don't watch a lot of movies, but if you watch every single movie, and this is a reference that came, that I always share, it's literally the same. You have a guy, a character, who faces a problem. That problem is stopping them from the desire that they want. And then there's conflict.
Yeah.
You can't have success without conflict, or at least meaningful success, right? You can win the lottery and make $1 million, but guess what? I'll give you 12 months. It's gone. And you didn't have a skill, because you didn't have a skill to develop that $1 million. You're never gonna enjoy it, even if you enjoy it for. Actually, most people that win it, they're actually in debt after. They lose it and they're in debt. But when you acquire the skills, you can do it over and over and over again. Now, the other thing I want to ask you is, Shaq, you've made over 40 million, I think now, close to $40 million.
Something like that.
Something like that. Who's counting, right?
I stopped counting.
Yeah. So people can say, well, listen, obviously it's easy for you to make that kind of money. I am a stay-at-home mom, or I am, I have a corporate job, or I work at a 9 to 5, and I barely know how to use an iPhone. How can I make $1 million?
Okay, firstly, mashallah, all my success, I just give credit to Allah. That's one. Because, look, there are people that work harder than me, longer than me, that are smarter than me, that are more educated than me, but they don't get the results. Okay, so I have to always preface that, just because. And so someone that's at home, you're struggling to pay your bills, you're trying to, the first goal most people have is trying to crack 10 grand a month. It was my first goal. I've had like 25,000 students from all over the world. The first goal everyone has is, how do I crack 10 grand a month? And then they want to get to, how do I become a millionaire? How you first get out of your own head is you have to first condition and program that there's a better reality that awaits you. And that is on the other side of getting outside of your comfort zone. All the magic, all the growth, all the income, all the results, all the riches, every single thing that you want is literally outside of your comfort zone. The actions that you're taking right now has got you those results today. Now we can say different environments, different upbringing, that's fine, but you have to accept now you have some sort of control over how you create your reality. So you can't be thinking, oh yeah, but this is it. This is never it. So the first stage is understanding that awareness that there's a different reality. Second stage that has worked for me, and I don't know if it's going to work for other people, but I always go find other people that have done it. So I would read books, even now, like if I want to learn about a new topic like AI or something, I'll find 3 of the best books. I'll go to maybe 3 different conferences and seminars, and I'll find 3 different experts, either on YouTube or in person. And I'm like, go through all these 3, and I'll just tell myself, hey, 20 hours to kickstart my journey. Because most skills today you can learn with 20 hours of focus. There's this fancy TED talk, how to learn anything fast in 20 hours. You have to dedicate 20 hours.
The most fulfilling, they watch Netflix for 20 hours.
And that's the thing, right? Like I remember coming across studies like this, even 15 years ago. And they would say like, at the 2 people can start the same, and when you measure them, at the end of one person's life, they're dead broke, they die broke, they've had a miserable life, and the other person is like they're financially free, they leave their kids with all of this stuff. And I would always be fascinated. Well, what makes that person that? And the stats would be something like 80% of people will die broke, 15% of people will just have just about savings, and then like something like 2% of people will be bang, 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 bang. They'll hit all these boxes. And I would always ask myself, what do they do that I can develop? And this was, again, just like most people, when you're watching this, you're probably not making 10 grand a month. You're probably not financially free. Probably don't have the freedom that you want in your life. That's why you're probably watching a podcast on freedom or nothing, right? I started off the same thing. It's not like my dad gave me a bunch of money or I said to myself, there's a new reality. I have to go find someone. And I remember the first ever ebook I bought, it was like $47 or $97. I must have read the sales page like for 2 days. And I kept thinking, is this a scam? Is this a scam? And then I bought the book, and the book literally said, make yourself valuable so that the marketplace will reward you. and you will become an attractive person in the marketplace. Does that make sense? And I was like, okay. So then you learn the skills that makes you attractive, and then you go out and share those skills. It's called marketing. So first you have to acquire the skills. So you ask yourself, you look around, what are the skills that people get paid for? Content creation, copywriting, sales, marketing, being able to persuade and influence other people, coming up with offers, being able to present on webinars, building funnels, right? Building sales processes for individuals, for business owners. I just give you a list of 8. You can throw in stuff like script writing. I just hiring a kid right now. He looks like he's 15. He's from Singapore. He's charging me $1,000 per video script. And he wants like $4,000 a month. I'm thinking, you're some young kid, but he's got a great skill. So he developed the skill which makes him attractive. And then you have to take that skill and then you have to market it and you have to share it with other people. One of the best formulas I ever learned that helped me create this, and my 0 level of love for football explains this, right? So I remember struggling for money, and then I would hear a doctor would make how much? 50 to 100 grand a year. But a football player, which is basically 20 people, how many people play on a football team? 20 people?
11 on the field, let's just say.
Okay.
18, maybe 20 on the team.
Okay, so 20 per team or in
11
total?
11 on the team. 11, yeah, 11.
Okay, so let's just say 20 people.
22 on the field at any given time.
Okay.
I can't believe I'm having this conversation for somebody that lives in England.
Yeah.
This is why you guys don't win anything.
Okay, well, I don't care if they win or lose anything. Again, that's what freedom is for me, right?
Yeah.
I'm not attached to one place just because I was born there. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
And so, let's say a football team has a group of 20 men, half naked, running around a ball to put into a goalpost. And then you have and they're making millions per year. How much does a football player make? 5, 10 million a year?
Yeah, the best ones are making 20, 30.
Okay, so let's just say, 5 million a year.
2 to 5
okay?
per year.
And a doctor is out there.
Save their lives.
I mean, one of my best friends is a doctor, and he works crazy hours, right? Why does he not get paid more than these guys playing football and kicking a ball around? It's because the marketplace values that and pays for that more, that entertainment, right? So, I was like 15, 16 years old when I understood this is not fair. So what am I going to do? Complain to my dad? What am I going to do? I started asking myself, why is it that these people make this money? And I came up with this formula, what is wealth? And it was value multiplied by leverage. So someone like a football player, he has value. Then he has leverage because millions of people support him. That's what creates wealth. That's what creates the freedom, the money, the riches, the fame, all of this. It's the same thing. I used to go to university once upon a time. And I remember this very clearly. University, and the lecturer would teach, 50, 100 kids in a theater hall, okay? And during that time, so he's impacting, let's just say 100 people a day, okay? During that time, this song came up called the Gangnam Dance. Everyone knows the Gangnam
style.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay? And that song basically has been viewed billions and billions of times. But my university lecturer has spent decades of his life, and he can only impact 100 people a day. How comes this music video and entertainment is impacting billions of people are listening to this song? When I understood, okay, this doesn't add up. And then you have someone that can make a YouTube video and they can get 1,000 views. They can get 1,000 views. They can get 1 million views. Who has the leverage? It's the YouTuber versus the university lecturer. So you can impact more people by writing a book, making YouTube videos, than a university lecturer, a professor that has spent, in a lot of cases, decades building his life up. So when you put those 2 and 2 together, something doesn't add up. And you can say, but that's not fair, but this and blah, blah, blah. Listen, I don't care. No one cares what you think about this. The reality is the marketplace is paying this person.
Yeah.
That's it. The marketplace is paying this person because this person knows how to get attention, knows how to convert that attention, and is making offers. So I learned early on, I have to have value, I have to develop the skills myself, then I have to leverage it, which means I have to get attention, and I mastered something called paid traffic, spending money on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. So I'll force people to come and find my stuff, the right target market, and then being able to convert that person into a customer and then sell those customers over and over again. So in summary, the reason why you're not making 10 grand a month, the reason why you don't have the freedom that you want is because of the skill acquisition, which is the value that you provide in the marketplace. That's one. And then the leverage points. How many leverage points do you have? Right? Like right now, I have 10 to 12 staff members. That means I'm buying, say they work 20 hours, 40 hours a week. That's like 400 hours a week of time I'm buying. That's why I can spend the whole day hanging out with you as my friend.
Yeah.
Right? Because I have a team that I'm paying for. That's leverage. But I had to build value. I had to first learn how to hire, how to lead, how to train them to do what I need them to do. So as I'm talking to you right now, I'll just give you a few functions so that there's a bigger picture. As I'm talking to you right now, I have a team that's editing videos. I have a team that's running traffic for me, spending money on Facebook, that's measuring the data. I have a sales team that are talking to qualified prospects, selling them funnels, selling them coaching services, selling them agency services, whatever the case is. I have an operations team that is taking care of the customers that are coming in. If there's any unhappy requests or complaints or whatever, okay, businesses always have these things. Then I have a team that will manage the support desk. I have an assistant that's checking my emails, making sure everything is followed up on. And I'm here in Dubai hanging out with you. And by the day the day finishes, I'll probably make X amount of sales.
And that's another misconception about business. I know a lot of people, they fall in love with the idea of owning your own business, except they become, it's like they own a job because they don't have systems. I mean, my background working with dentists for a long time.
Yeah.
I'd see a dentist open up a practice. If he's not in the clinic, nothing is working. His constant needs to check. He can't take vacations or she can't take vacations. Yeah. And the reason is they don't have systems in place. And for you to have been able to travel the world or to sleep at night knowing that you have a team in place working there, how do you get to that level? Because most people,
Yeah, so... when I was first making money, this actually before I was making money, which is kind of crazy to say, but as far as I remember, ever since I started my business, 15 years ago, all the brands and everything, I've always had an assistant. I mean, day one. I couldn't afford to pay them full-time salary, so I paid them $300 a month. And it was my cousin brother. He came in as my first assistant, and I realized if you have 10 things to do each day, and you write out your to-do list every day, right? 80% of that needs to be delegated. So I would delegate all of these things to him. And then I would hire another person and then I would delegate that to him. And I remember even making my first $1 million, I said to my best friend at the time, I said, it's like I don't even do any work because the team is doing it. And I had 2 people in the UK, 2 people in the Philippines. Dude, I was like 23 years old. So what did I do? I understood and I learned the art of delegation, that you know what to do. If you don't do it, then you need to go and hire a who. So who can do it? This is the one question that unlocks 10x growth, that unlocks 10x income, even 100x your income. How do you 100x your income right now? How do you go from 100 grand a year to 10 million a year? You already know what to do. The question is, who's on your team that's going to execute it? Yeah. So now when I'm launching a new business, when I'm launching a new venture, it's not even, what do I need to do? It's who can I bring on the team that has the expertise, credibility, capabilities to execute. So the skills I learned early on, and I'm not the best at it by any chance in the world, but I've learned because I built a team of like 55 people when I was like in my 20s, and I had the events business and all of that. But I got good at attracting and retaining talent and showing them a vision so that they could be attached and attracted to that vision. And that's how I would recruit people from other top companies. And they would leave their jobs, they would come here, and then they would work for my business, right? And then they would create systems that we would use. So when we had a live events business model that was doing up to $1 million a month cash collected, and that was basically, I took systems and people from other companies, and instead of training them from scratch, I hired experienced people. So in the beginning, the first most important person to hire is an assistant, so they can take off your admin stuff. And then straight away, you need to be able to market. You have to get people that are in marketing and sales. And then as you do that and you start making more money, then you can hire product development, get your product better. Product gets better, then you want to sell more. Then to sell more, you got to market more. So it just all works in a big, unlimited flywheel, framework. And if you can get that right, where your product is good, the product gets great reviews and customers. Most products suck in every industry. So if you make your product really good, like one of my products, I've spent over 250 grand. It's a digital product, bro. I could have get away with it, launching it for free, launching it on the cheap, And in the past, I used to launch products all the time. I've launched like 50 different products, services, brands, right? And so, but this last one I launched during COVID, I was like, I want to invest in it. I spent like at least 250 grand into this, right? And it's like, it's got the best product, the best videos, the best templates, the best tools that helps anyone start and grow a multiple six-figure business in their very first year. Because that's what I did, right? It's only after I started making multiple six figures and then seven figures that I found true freedom. Even at six figures, you think you're going to be happy with 100, 200 grand a year. And you make that, and then you realize, that's the golden handcuffs. It's actually crazy to say, but the worst place to be in is if you're stuck making 150 to 300 grand a year. Because now you've upgraded your lifestyle, your kids are in private school, you have this driver or whatever, but then now you're stuck. You can't get away from it, and you have to now do the work.
And it's scary because you don't want to lose that comfort.
That's why they call it the golden handcuffs. Yeah. That's why you have all these people in corporate, they don't want to leave their 200 grand a year job. Yeah. So you have to get to that, after usually 300K to 500K, life gets a little bit easier. Then $1 million, it goes back to being hard. Then 1 million to 5 million is pretty easy. But then at 5 to 10 million a year, you start have to now managing teams and building high level A players. That's when things get a little bit more tougher as well. But with every level, there's a new devil, and your ability to anticipate what that devil is and overcome those devils, whether you're starting from scratch and you want to make your first 10 grand a month, there's devils lurking around. Whether it's usually your mindset and your belief systems. At six figures, now you're trying to find product market fit. Do you have something valuable for the marketplace? If you do, then people are going to buy. If not, then you're going to be caught out very quickly. You're not going to be able to, then you scale to seven figures, and usually the first 1 or 2 million people make, they lose it. Because they've never had it. They don't know how to manage their cash flow. They don't know how to do budgeting and forecasting. Or they have a big ego, right? And then they go out and spend it, and then the market changes, and they can never get back on it. I've seen so many people. How many people do you and I know? They've had a one-hit wonder. They've been successful for 1 or 2 years. Very few people can say they've been successful for 10 plus years. So the way you have longevity in this business is by building a solid team, having good products that carry your reputation well, and then being consistent at whatever it is that you do, whether it's content creation, running ads, whatever the case is.
Where do you see the future trend of this digital marketing, online marketing going?
When I was getting started, people said, the death of email marketing, the death of webinars. Now people are saying, oh my gosh, AI is going to take over. I'm like, whatever, I welcome it. Why? Because I know the skill that's required, and it's basically anticipation and adaptability. If you anticipate what's coming and then you adapt to it, then you're ahead of the curve. If you're ahead of the curve, by learning new skills, by developing yourself, developing the characteristics, the belief systems, the people around you. Like, for example, as soon as ChatGPT launched, I let go of like 2 or 3 of my team members. I'm like, I can replace your work with AI. I mean, I'm saving like close to 7-8 grand a month. Right? And because I anticipated and then I adapted. But it wasn't just me that adapted. The team members that adapted on my team, they got to stay. Does that make sense?
Because they leveraged AI.
Because they leverage AI. It's like yesterday I saw, once a week I review like the funnels that we build for our agency clients and stuff. And one of the guys, he submitted his work and I literally said to him, like just one glance, I said, there's a grammar, put it through AI, make sure that there's no other grammar errors, and then I'll be happy. Right? I didn't have to read the whole thing. I'm like, I saw one grammatical error. He put in like a hyphen and there was no space. Literally just one thing. And I'm like, not good enough. Put it through AI. Before, I would have to pay someone, another copywriter would have to look at it. So I always believe if you can anticipate what's coming ahead and then you are adapting and you're flexible. I'm flexible for everything, bro.
Yeah.
You know, there's very few things in life are absolute truths. You know, like for example, my religion, it's an absolute truth. Don't waver, you know. I have to pray 5 times a day. I pray 5 times a day, mashallah.
Yeah.
You know, there's like there's no gray lines. There's black and white.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
However, in business, there's black, white, green, red. In different things, there's things that you have to adapt and you can tweak. I remember paying Tony Robbins, I bought his like, something like, it was like 50 grand or 75 grand for his mastermind. And I met Jay Abraham and Tony Robbins at this private mastermind, Platinum Partnership it's called, yeah? And Tony Robbins gets on and he's like, I want to share with you the number one skill that I learned because of Jay Abraham, like decades and decades ago, right? So when Tony was really young, he would love his products so much and he would like obsess over his products. And then Jay Abraham came to mentor him and Jay Abraham told him, fall in love with your market and not your product. And how you stay ahead is by anticipation. What can go wrong?
Yeah.
So I learned that many years ago and I was like, okay, I have a growth mindset. I'm always willing to learn. I'm always willing to say, hey, I don't know this. I don't know anything about anything. I'm always learning. And so that gives me an adaptability mindset, a framework to just be adaptable to any situation. And I'm always anticipating, hey, what can go wrong? Instead of always thinking, what can go right? What can go wrong in this situation? And who do I have to become for the next level of my own growth? Like one of the reasons why I lost like nearly 25, nearly 30 pounds. Why? Dude, because I realized, hey, I spend money on traffic every single month, almost for like 10 plus years, right? But the ROAS that I was getting, I mean, you know my campaigns, $2.5 million spent, $20 million cash collected, one campaign. I've had plenty of campaigns, but the last 12 months, something has happened. I'm not getting a 5, 10, 20x ROAS on my money. Why? Oh, I get it. Why? Because the YouTube game has caught on. Organic is taking. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm giving myself 12 to 18 months. I want to replace, let's just say I spend 100 grand a month on ads, okay? At my peak, I was spending up to 100 grand a week on ads. But let's just say right now I'm spending 100 grand a month on ads. In 12 months' time, I want to replace my organic marketing, my traffic, with what I'm spending on paid. Who do I have to become? I got to be a healthier version of myself. For myself, right? Now I'm wearing medium-sized clothes and I feel good and strong, right? I couldn't tell you this 1 year ago. So this is me adapting. Does that make sense? Yeah. For, as mashallah I'm making more money, I have to become a wiser investor. I thought I'm just going to be running my business, but when you have X amount of money in cash, you have to learn the investing game. Yeah. You can't rely on, other people and financial advisors, because I lost $1 million bucks.
Exactly. You've lost a lot of money doing it that
We
way.
can talk about that.
Right.
We can talk about that because,
We can have that
most,
episode for that.
yeah, we can, I've lost more millions, over $10 million, subhanAllah, okay? More millions from my bank account I've lost in bad investments than most people dream of or even ever will make in their entire lifetime.
Yeah.
And it humbles me, man, because I realize, hey, I'm not Superman. I don't float on water. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to get ripped off. I'm going to get scammed from bad investment opportunities. And I just take it on the chin, pray to Allah, boom, I'm back on.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's one thing. Look, so you said you lost over $10 million. I mean, there are people who lose 10% of that and they don't recover. How were you able to keep going after that?
Yeah, so one, being a Muslim, I have strong faith that, look, reality is I'm not taking any of this stuff to the grave. So I can't be attached to this. I hear people go through depression and stuff when they've lost money. I don't think I've ever experienced that, or I never even call it depression. Maybe some sadness, for example, in the last crypto run, just in one coin, Luna, the thing crashed, I lost nearly 600 grand. Went to the masjid and I just put my hand up, prayed for a few minutes. And then I said to myself, I can't allow myself to wallow and sink in. I have to get back on, get back on the horse. Yeah. So one of the skills that I developed early on, I don't know if they call it resilience, but just bounce back. And this is a mantra that I've developed to myself, right? Which is, bad things will happen. I can only anticipate and do my best. But when it happens, how fast can I bounce back? Like the bounce back strategy. You see on Facebook, we have the omnipresent strategy. And for funnels, when a client comes to me, I tell them, here's how in 5 steps you go from an unknown nobody to becoming a hero. And you create this expert methodology and you brand it. That's a framework. So for me, anytime I go through any hardships, any setbacks, I lose $1 million there, got scammed for 600 grand for a bad investment, whatever the case is, how do I bounce back? And here's the key. How fast it takes you to bounce back will determine how fast you keep moving and how much success you have. I used to have a friend who generated multiple 9 figures. We both knew. We spent years. One failure.
Yeah.
And he never, ever recovered.
Yeah.
He didn't even go back to making not even 8 figures, not even 7 figures.
Yeah.
Why? Because he didn't have no foundation in spirituality, in family, in his personal life. So when he came crashing down like that. When I lost money, and not once, but 2 times I've lost big fortunes, okay? We're not going to go into the exact numbers, but let's just say in the many, many millions, subhanallah, okay? Both times, guess what? I'm still grounded. I'm still praying 5 times a day. I'm not missing no prayers. Still have good friends like you, helping me, mentoring me, guiding me, telling me, hey, it's going to be okay. Hey, if you need anything, I'm here. Right? Most people try to make their fortune once in their life. Before I turned, 32, 33, I lost two life-changing fortunes. So as much as I'm talking about XYZ, the other side of success is you're going to be faced with all these challenges, but how fast can you bounce back?
Yeah.
How fast can you keep moving forward? And one of the greatest skills as an entrepreneur you can develop is as soon as you find a little bit of momentum, you have to keep going. You have to keep going until you can escape velocity. When it comes to making money, it's usually at the $3 million mark. That's where you can have some escape velocity. When it comes to, like I'm doing it right now, literally on my YouTube channel. I'm publishing enough content as much as I can. So then when it reaches a certain number, then I can come down to maybe once a week.
Yeah.
But until then, publish daily. Publish value daily.
Yeah, The thing is, we all have this gift. We all have something valuable that we can share with the world. Maybe we do it in private. We do it for our kids. We do it for our partners.
Yeah.
But we think if we get on camera, or if we get, and you don't have to get on camera. You can do it as a blog. You can write it, whatever you're comfortable with. But most people feel the value that they have, the knowledge that they've gained, the experiences they went through, the problems that they went through, that they've solved, that other people are going through, for some reason it's not a big deal because they only see it from their own perspective.
Yeah.
Yet you and I know there are people who make millions of dollars literally solving problems that people go through on a daily basis. One example is parenting.
Yeah.
Right? When I had kids, I just thought your kids came out the way you want them to come out. And then you start to figure out, well, that's not how it works. And no one taught you, or no one teaches you how to become a parent. And then what do? Right? You go and learn the proper way to parent. And this comes down to relationship.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the question is, how many parents that have raised amazing kids, but they just take it for granted? They don't. You see them.
Yeah. I mean, you can like this is another, again, it's all frameworks, right? Mental frameworks dictate the actions that you take, the beliefs that you have, and the results that you get. So one of the mental frameworks I have is every single adversity that I've gone through, I've turned it into an adventure. So I'm always having fun in the process. Okay, like you can take all my money, but hopefully you're not going to take my smile away, right? I'm going to be able to learn to enjoy the process and turn it into an adventure. And that in itself becomes an asset. Some of my clients that pay me a lot of money, 50K, 100K, XYZ, they hear the challenges I've gone through and how I've overcome them. And they're like, hey, I want to work with you. Wow. You made multiple tens of millions of dollars before turning 30 years old. I can learn XYZ from you because you also made mistakes. Like, for example, yesterday, the mutual friend that we met is making over $3 million a month, but he's never put a live event on. I've done over 100 live events, made all the mistakes you can possibly think about. He's like, maybe we should talk about doing a live event together. You understand? He's got millions of followers online. He's never hosted a live event. You and I have been hosting live events for over a decade.
I remember the first live event.
My first event. You helped me put that offer together. That offer was out of nowhere. MashaAllah, that one's done at least $12, $13 million right now.
And I was actually
that was one offer.
and I was actually telling Dan yesterday, is that you came to, like, there was two defining moments about that event that really shows or demonstrates why you're so successful. The first one is that you wanted to do this event, and I think you were doing Umrah. You were in Mecca. I don't know. I think you were doing, I don't know if it was Hajj.
Hajj.
Hajj was a Hajj.
Yeah.
And you were with your family. I'm like, hey, bro, do you want to delay it? You want to come back? You're like, no, let's do it. This is the date. It'll work out. Like, let's do it. So we do this event. And then when you're at the event, I'm like, all right, so what are we going to offer? What's your offer for that?
Yeah, I was so new. I actually didn't know you should sell at the event until you came and said. I said, no, they've already paid, 500 to 1,000, what was it, 500 to 1,000 or something. Per 84 people showed up from all walks of life, all different countries, people from Africa, Kenya, Australia, crazy. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm here to have a good time. And you're like, no, you need to sell something. And, you were doing copy work for me and creating offers for me. And I was like, will you have 1 hour? You come up with an offer right now. And my team, I remember the team, the girls, they just looked and said, Shakir, you're crazy. And I'm like, no. You come up. And you gave me this presentation on a laptop, Google Slides. I jumped on stage. I didn't even review it. And I'm like, just going over it. And there and then,
but
I launched the offer.
That's what we say, speed loves money.
Yeah, money loves speed.
And the thing is, when most people have an idea or they have the desire to start something, every single excuse of why they should delay comes up, and they just go after one, after the next, after the next. Not now, let me finish this first, let me do this. And that's just feeding into fear, right? Where you had the idea, let's do it. Great.
So idea to implementation. So again, it's another framework. Yeah. Where did this framework come from? Many years ago, I used to follow this dude called Ibn, and he talked about this study done on people that were making 250 grand plus per year. Now you see kids on TikTok making 250 grand a month. It's no big deal, but 10, 15 years ago, it was a big deal. You know, it was a lot of money. It still is a lot of money to a lot of people today, 250 grand a year. They did this study on people that make 250 grand a year, considered 1% of the highest earners in the world. Okay, if you make 250 grand a year. They looked at all this data and they found one thing in common. Not what degree they got, not what they look like, not what they sound like, just one golden thread amongst every single person that was basically making 250 grand plus per year. What was it? Speed of implementation. They found how fast do these people learn something and then how fast do they go and execute. So for me, here's what happened. I just built it into my personality. I implement regardless of if it works or not.
Yeah.
Do you understand what that means? I take massive action even if I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Even when I was coming here to your house, I'm like, I don't know his full address. Let me just put half of his address. This was my thinking. I'm going to put half of his address. At least it's going to take me to his location, his area, even if it's half done.
Yeah.
I came and then I'm like, okay, I'm actually 7 minutes off.
Yeah.
But you know what? We were in a rush. The guy was telling us to leave the car, whatever. I'm like, at least we got there. In everything, speed of implementation. So when I get an idea, last night we were out till late night, 2, 3 a.m. I came home like 4 a.m. or something. And I said in the car, I like that guy's offer. Doing $3 million a month, I can easily launch that. Literally, it's not even been 24 hours. Today, I'm going to have a call with the rest of my team, and we're going to put that into action. I'm going to send an email out tonight. It's not even been 24 hours. I'm going to email 100,000 plus of my best subscribers on my email list and announce the offer that I just learned last night at dinner.
Well,
is it going to work? I don't know. What's the chances if it's going to work? Maybe 80%. You have to be a little bit self-delusional. As an entrepreneur, you're manufacturing your own optimism in the face of setbacks, a fear of failure, what are other people going to think all the time.
Yeah.
So get used to it. Another framework I have, is this valuable for you?
Yeah.
Another framework I have is everything that I do is just version 1. Version 1 of what? Version 1 of 10.
Yeah.
Okay? So now I like this podcast studio. I'm like, it's my second one here. Last one sucked. Maybe this one sucked. I don't know. If you're watching this on YouTube or Instagram, whatever, let me know in the comments if this stuff is valuable. But in my head, I already said to myself, I need to do 10 of these podcasts to even judge myself. Do you get it?
Well,
10.
You got to do 21 podcasts to be in the 1%. By the way, it only takes 21 podcasts.
Yeah. And again, that's another framework. Right. Framework, you have to build these frameworks in your mind, which is another framework I have is I do 10% more than everyone else. Yeah. If everyone is going to do 10 podcasts, 10% more is just one. Yeah. Just do one more. One more in everything. Just to make one more connection. How many people have you met in Dubai? Every single time I've come, I'm sure you've noticed, every time I bring on a new person, every single time, I build a relationship in private, then I bring whoever it is in public, and I get all of my best friends close together, and I say, hey, this is a dude, he's legit. Yeah. This is a person, they're making waves, let's come and meet. Right? Just think about the last 5 times I've come to Dubai. Pretty much every single time I've introduced you to people. Why? Because I also know it's one more connection, it's one more deal, it's one more phone call, it's one more cold email. One of the best deals I ever did was selling that domain name to Russell Brunson. Right. $1.3 million.
$1.3 million
Mashallah. For a domain name. I bought it for $5,000. Russell Brunson paid me $1.3 million cash, straight, boom.
How does it feel to have $1.3 million wired into your bank account and you see that number popping right there?
This is gonna sound so crazy, bro. But I was just numb to it. It was just another number.
You had to be like a bit of satisfaction.
I said, mashallah. I think I prayed straight away. And then I just said, I need to go to sleep. I'm going to go to sleep. I didn't even tell my wife. Maybe I didn't even tell my brothers. Maybe 2-3 days later, I said, oh yeah, that came in. And they said, wow, you was quiet. It didn't change my life one tiny bit. Now, the first time I made $100,000, that was life-changing.
Absolutely.
My first $1 million in my bank. Yeah. When I logged into HSBC and there was £1 million in there, I was like, wow, that's £1 million. I can buy anything I want. But I didn't have any desire to buy anything. You know, and again, everyone's different, man. So it's like, yeah. How did it feel? It felt good knowing that the deal went through. I spent $5,000, made 1.3 million. The actual number on the screen, I don't know too much about it. You know, I took a picture, I took a screenshot, save it for myself. I'm grateful. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful. You know, and I've wanted to. You know, when you build up to something, it's like, you know, we're gonna go to a nice restaurant tonight, have some nice steak. It's like the excitement. Yeah. After you have it, you're like, okay.
How did you even get in touch with that?
With that domain name? So long story short, I acquired the domain. I paid $5,000 for it. How I got in touch with Russell Brunson, he kind of knew me from the industry, but I cold emailed. So just like what I said, you got to do 10% more. One more deal, one more phone call. Tonight when we go out, I've got another one dude coming in, which I don't think you know, and he's spent a lot of money on Instagram influencers and whatnot. Just one more person I want to introduce you to. Just one more deal. Just one more cold email. I just messaged Russell Brunson cold. One more message on Instagram. And by the way, you think I just sent him one message and he said, oh yeah, I'm going to give you $1.3 million because he makes $100 million a year? No. There was like 20, 30 messages back and forth.
Yeah.
What did I do? I found other people that spent $1 million on a domain name. I sent it to him. I found articles about how domain names are like owning Manhattan buildings 20 years ago. I sent those articles to him. Over and over again. He said no. I said, give me $2 million, I'll give you the domain name. He's like, no. I'm like, what can I do? Then I said, you pay me $1.3 million in the next 7 days. You know, I want to buy crypto. I want to invest here. You give that to me. Boom, I'll give it to you for $1.3 million.
Boom.
Done deal.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that I don't think you'd have as much satisfaction if you just said yes to you right away. I mean, even if you got the 1.3 million, right? I mean, one thing I always say is this. Happiness is a prerequisite to struggle. The perfect example is this. When would you say a human being is the happiest? I would say is when a mother sees her baby for the first time.
Yeah.
Or when the baby comes out, right? But think about what she had to go through before that moment. 9 months of pregnancy, weight gain, emotional roller coaster. Obviously all women go through different things. I've seen my wife with all 4 kids have different emotions throughout all of them. But regardless, when that little fella comes out and she's holding him or her, that love, that genuine, sure, the father is happy too, but when you see that mom, because she's the one that struggled.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand is that whatever outcome you want, be it money, be it in a relationship, be it having a healthy body, you have to accept that a struggle is part of the journey.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't the case, it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah. There's a joy to just find peace in the struggle of everything. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like pushing weights. You know, it's like no one's watching you if you do 8 reps or 10. But you know deep down, man, I could push one more. It's painful. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. Right? Like this evening, I'm not really looking forward to hitting the gym before I go out, but I have to do it. There's no ifs or buts about it. But there's also a understanding with myself that I do what I say I'm going to do. You know how many times I wanted to jump this podcast? I love you as my brother and my friend, but I was like, I'm meeting this guy. I'm doing this. I'm like, no, just do it. Just show up and just do it. You know, and then we get talking and we can talk for hours, but In everything, when you're writing copy, when you're making a sales call, 45 minutes, you're finding out someone's pain and frustration. And they're like, oh, I've done this script 100 times, But then you close the deal and he wires you 120 grand. You're like, I do more of this. In everything, a lot of people, they're uncomfortable with that pain. How do you get good at that? You just build it into a habit. Like I've been writing an email a day for over 10 years. Now, sure, I miss a few days here and there, but I get it done. Yesterday I was in the bank. Battery, 6%. I'm banging out an email. Boom, hit send. Battery dies. Close my laptop. Phew. I have to get on a plane. I didn't send an email. Write the email. 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 45 minutes. Write the email. These are activities that, one, obviously, they make money. Two, it's a inbuilt habit. Yeah. It's a habit. Your habits will dictate the results that you get, the income that you make. I have a habit of implementing things fast, even when things don't work out. I have a habit of spending money on Facebook every single month. Every single month. I have a habit where I tell myself, who's the A player that I'm hiring this month? Because I'm always hiring. Because I always want talent. Traffic acquisition is one to get customers, but talent acquisition is even more important. Because if you have talent acquisition right, everything else falls into place. The reason why you're not growing in your business, in your life, is because you don't have talented people around you. Go and get talented people. You want to lose weight? Try losing weight by yourself and then go and get a personal trainer. Then go and get a personal trainer that's been doing it for 20 years. And you see the difference. And so, if you can first identify what are the habits needed to create the results that you want that will lead you to freedom. So for me, it's funny because I never read books as a kid. I hated reading. And there was a dude who I used to follow, and he said, it don't matter if you don't like something, just do it. And in the process, you learn to love it. And I was like, I don't want to read books. Why should I read books? I haven't read books. I've never buy books. And then someone said to me, if you learn this skill, it's called copywriting, then you can write copy and write headlines that will get people's attention and they will give you money. So I attached reading books with making money. And I've always liked making money as a kid. So the first books I buy, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, secondhand books. Because back then you could get secondhand books on Amazon for 1 cent or 1 penny, and you just paid £2 or something for delivery. It was my first ever marketing book. I still have till today. The Ultimate Sales, what was it called? Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. Yeah. Gold cover. Yeah. And I got it. And I remember it was a secondhand book, right? It's all tattered and battered. And I thought, someone must have read this book so good. And I bought the secondhand copy of it. It was my first ever marketing book. I read it from cover to cover. It still sits on my bookshelf 15 years later, bro. Right? But that was my start. And as I started reading these books, I started changing my beliefs and my habits. I started making more money. And I'm like, wow, if I acquire talent, if I acquire talented people, if I acquire skills, knowledge, my income just keeps going up and up. So if you want to have freedom, identify what is that number that you need. Maybe it's 10 grand a month, which works out to be how much? $333 per day. Maybe you want to make $1 million a year. How much is that? You want to know something? Most people, they get stuck because they don't have clarity. They don't have clarity in their life, so they don't know what they want, why they want it. I used to do live events in my earlier years. In my 20s, I had like good 5-6 year run. I did events all over the world. Singapore, Toronto, USA. I spoke all over the world at events and stuff. And I would always ask this one question. How many of you want to become financially free? And everyone puts their hand up. How many of you want to make $1 million a year? Everyone puts their hand up. How many of you know how much you need to make per day to make $1 million a year? Huh? 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 What? What did you just say? How much do you need to make $1 million per year? Because everyone just said they want to make $1 million.
But that's also the reason why they don't, because they just see the giant number.
They just
if you break it down, it becomes more realistic.
And very few people knew.
Yeah.
It's $2,700 a day. It's $84,000 a month. That's what's going to get you to $1 million a year. So people, they think I want to make $1 million a year. Okay, tell me how much you need to make per day and then per hour. Oh, I have no idea. So then how do you do that? Does that make sense? So you have to get very clear on the number that you need. That's freedom for you. Then you have to reverse engineer. So let's just say you wanted to make 10 grand a month. It's basically just under $300 a day. So if you work, let's just say 8 hours a day, or even 6 hours a day for your business, for your side hustle, for a new skill, how much do you have to make? Well, 300 divided by 6 is $50 an hour. So you got to learn how to make $50 an hour. You have to ask yourself, what skills can I do that's going to get me paid $50 an hour? Well, if you're a graphics designer, not really. Copywriting is better. Building funnels, learning about AI, building AI solutions for customers, writing compelling copy so now $300 per day to make it easier for customers at $2,500. That should be your goal. You need to get 4 customers at $2,500 each.
Yep.
That's your 10 grand a month. Now you can charge them one-off, or what I'd like to do is charge them every month. So you have 10 grand a month coming in. So who's going to pay you $2,500 a month? Not some kid. Most kids are broke. Not some random person in a 9-to-5 job that's making 5-6 grand a month. So who's going to pay you that? A business owner. A business owner will have a budget for marketing. In my company, I have a budget for marketing. I have a budget for paid traffic, for organic traffic. I have a budget for now hiring scriptwriters. I have a budget for copywriters. So who do you want to target? You want to target business owners. And then what's the message you're going to tell the business owner so that they are compelled to pay you? Well, if you, again, frameworks, man. Frameworks for success in everything. The 10x rule. What's the 10x rule? Not the 10x, 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 but the 10x value rule.
Yeah. I
learned this a long time ago. What is it? If you charge someone $2,500, make sure that they're getting 10 times the value of what they're paying you. So how, if you paid me $2,500, how would I feel like you're giving me $25,000 of value?
Yeah.
Maybe if you pay me $2,500 a month, I can get you at least 25,000 visitors or 25,000 views on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm going with this? This is where you want to put your head into. What skills can I develop for my freedom, and who's going to pay me so I can hit my goals much faster? And if you keep asking yourself the right questions, you're going to get the clarity. Clarity will create confidence. That confidence is going to get you to take more action, which means as you're taking more action, you're going to have more courage. You're going to be much more bolder. You're going to say, oh yeah, last month I charged $2,500. This time I'm going to take the same product. I'm going to charge 10 grand for it. That courage now builds new capabilities. Because now you're like, I just done that. I got the courage. Now I've got the capability to do it again. That feeds into your confidence levels. Now your confidence is going high. Your competency to deliver that program goes higher. Same way, the first time you helped me sell the mastermind, I charged $20,000. I got online. I think I paid a mentor, and he said, well, if you sold out, you made all this money, you should just double the price. And I thought, who on earth is going to pay me $40,000 for a mastermind? Boom. I sell like 180 units, bro. Mashallah.
Sure. Yeah.
180 units, bro.
Yeah.
40 grand. Now that same program is 50 to 60K. And I have an advanced version of it, which is 120K, which I think I've got around 30-ish people that have paid over 100 Gs.
Yeah.
But it all came from one idea
Yep.
that you gave me, and I executed it, and then I tweaked it, and I adapted, and I developed the skills, and that tiny little bit of courage led to having more confidence, led to developing new capabilities, leading to new levels of competency.
Yeah, and here we are.
And here we are, sharing all this.
Yep. Okay, so we have enough time for two questions. One, and I know we can go for another 2 hours, but so here's my first question. When we're young, right, like we have all these things that we think is freedom, is going to bring us the ultimate happiness. This can be traveling to this amazing hotel or eating at the best restaurants or meeting certain people. And then you could say we've been fortunate enough, right, to do a lot of those things. And then for my case, and I'm sure you're some of it, I want to hear your story. Like for me now, what's important is really just two things that are in my control, right? Number one is to get closer and have more trust in God. And that's something where like you just realize how many things you think you control, but you really don't. And it's just become like a very, very, clear to me that in this world we think we have so many things that we want to do, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is up above and your connection there. And then the second is to constantly be valuable to people. And this means your family, this means your friends, this means a waiter that you meet, because you don't know what people go through.
Yeah.
You don't know what somebody's day's been like. You don't know the challenges they're going through. And I learned that we all have masks covering deep pain that we don't want the world to see. And the least we can do is just acknowledge people, recognize them, smile, like basic things, whether you have time, whether you have money, whether you have, just a good gesture that you can give others to make their day a bit brighter. So those are really the two main things that I focus on. Yes.
Yeah.
Do I still want to make money? Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Do I still want to run a business? Of course. Do I still want to have a great life? Of course. But I've seen people who have focused on this their entire lives, and you see them today, and they still look empty. So for you, after making over $40 million and building multiple businesses and becoming one of the top marketers, how has your views changed?
Yeah, it's funny because 5 years ago, if you had this interview with me, I would tell you that I'm so smart, I'm so clever, I made it making $1 million a month at the age of 28. Everything I touch turns to gold. Astaghfirullah. Okay. But now you've seen my transition as well. The last 5 years, who I've become is very different. So I'd say all of my success is from Allah. All of it. That's why I said luck and timing. Luck, timing, risk, blessings, it's all from Allah. It's all from God. And so that's one. I give all the credit. Like I don't even take any of this. That's why I tell you, like sometimes I'm thinking to myself, man, this is my test. I'm being tested with all this money.
Yep.
Some people watching this and making $1 million a year, like, oh, I would love to have those tests. Everyone thinks the grass is greener on the other side. Having money, all of this stuff helps. Going to the finest restaurants, it helps. It does give you freedom. So I'm not going to bash that.
No, of course.
Okay. What I am going to say is you want to be happy without it. I remember I was still a happy kid, bro. Even with no money, I'd go to live events. I'd be the poorest, the dumbest, the youngest. I'd go to America. 15 years ago, there was no brown kids doing internet marketing, bro. I didn't know a single full-time, legit internet marketer in all of London that was brown. I'd be in these rooms, everyone's white, everyone's American, everyone's English. But I was always happy. I just found a level of contentment. And again, mashallah, I had great parents and they taught me to be grateful. My mom built this mindset inside of me, which was, you got to pray 5 times a day. No matter what happens, that's where all the happiness comes from. And my dad would always say to me, there's a country called Africa and there's lots of poor people there. And there's Bangladesh and there's poor people. And you are a king compared to them. I'm like, what? And he's like, son, you have everything you need. So you have no excuses, and obviously he was an immigrant. He came to UK with nothing and then he built himself up. So I saw that and I'm like, okay, it's worth pursuing. So how has my views changed after achieving success? The first few $1 million, it was all for me. Even I'd say the first $10 million, it was all for me. Okay. Then it just became a game. Even now, I'm not going to talk about the numbers specific, but, alhamdulillah for everything. It's just a game. So I love it. I help people. I get rewarded in the process. Is it the most important thing in my life? Absolutely not. I value my health. I value my spirituality, my connection with Allah, my prayers, my family, my wife. This is way more important than just, let's make another $1 million. Let's make another $10 million. It's like, there also comes a time when you realize more money doesn't double your happiness. And it's actually, in the beginning, it's very sad. When you make $1 million, then you think, hey, look at me, I'm a millionaire. Then you're like, no, I need to make multiple millions. I need to have multiple millions in the bank. Then you get to that stage where you have got multiple millions in the bank just sitting there. Then you're like, I just realized my happiness has not doubled from me doubling my income. So then what the heck is happiness? And I remember the first time I heard this, I was like, wow, my happiness has not doubled. So that means even if I make 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, the happiness doesn't. So how has my views changed? I love the game for what it is. Just a temporary game of business, of wealth creation, of accumulation, of wealth preservation. It's fun, but I don't let it define me. Now, again, in full transparency, in my 20s, I was very different. I was like a machine. Sacrifice everything except for family and my religion. I sacrifice friends. I sacrifice every single thing. I mean, you've been friends with me for 10 years. That friend circle never grew more than 4 people. But it also kept me focused. I didn't go out dating. I don't do drinking. I don't do drugs. I don't go clubbing. I don't do partying. I don't do any of this stuff. Found one woman, got married to her, mashallah. That's it, right? And so my values have changed. In my 20s, it was every single month had to be better. For 9 years, bro, 21 to 29, I grew like this. I would have 3 people. I don't even know if I told you this stuff. I used to have 3 people report my cash on cash collections for the day and then create a report for my daily net worth. And every single day, the goal was I need to increase my net worth. Every single day, I would get this report compiled by 2 to 3 different people, double-checked and verified. And then I would get this report and I'd be like, and it would fluctuate 100, 200 grand a day, whatever. And I would be like, I'm mad right now. Why is he down? He has to be, multiple millions at all times, And then you realize none of this stuff means that. It means something, but it's not the source of your happiness or the source of your life. And then you get accustomed to it. Don't get me wrong, it's important to have, but at a certain level, after probably 500K, $1 million, life doesn't, it's like we're going to go eat the same food. Might be a nicer restaurant, might be an extra few $100, might be even an extra $1,000.
Yeah.
But we're just going to eat. And it's not like, oh yeah, now I've got this money, now I want to go and spend all of it. I do have a few luxuries, the penthouses in London, business class flights, those things, don't need to look at the prices of what I'm going to eat, where I'm going to eat, or clothes, stuff like that. But other than that, the values have changed to definitely health, because without health, you have nothing. I remember I was in Singapore. So when I was a kid, there used to be this brand called Bathing Ape. Bathing Ape?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. It's like this big ape on your clothes or whatever. And these, I could never afford them as a kid. But there was one of my friends, he used to buy secondhand clothes and he used to wear this Bathing Ape. And one day I'm in, Singapore, I'm just traveling around the world and I see this shop. And I look at this shop and I'm like, that's that brand. And I go in with my head high, because these t-shirts cost like $200-$300, $400 or whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to go buy these t-shirts. Why not? I can afford it. I have money. And I remember going in Singapore, you see all these Chinese slim kids going in and they're buying all these clothes. And I remember none of the t-shirts fit me. And I walked out and I thought, wow, I can have all the money in the world, but I can't spend a few $100 on a t-shirt that I really liked since I was a kid. Yeah. So what's more important? Your health is more important. Because you can have all the money in the world, but if you can't lift it, it's like, and you can't experience it, then what's the point? I know plenty of wealthy people, but they have very poor health. Would you exchange your life for this? Never. It's like, well, if I gave you $100 million, but you have no hands, you'd never exchange it. So what's more valuable, money or your health? Your health is. Same way, I didn't really appreciate, my spiritual life and the responsibilities of being a Muslim. But then I started hanging out with people that were more spiritual, more religious. And I realized, wow, they're chasing heaven and I'm chasing this materialistic world. So I started building my relationships with these people. Just like in a mastermind, you build the connections. That's why every time you come to London, I want you to go meet all these Maulanas, all these people that I have huge respect for. Before, I used to just look up to entrepreneurs and people that made a lot of money. Now that has changed. Yeah. It's like, bro, I've met people that are worth millions of dollars, billions of dollars. I get more excited to meet someone who's memorized the Quran. And I want to be in their presence more than meeting another entrepreneur. Yeah. So in my 20s, there was a lot of that. It shaped who I am. And I do regret it because, again, it's my values, my life. And I realize I should have been focused more on the spiritual side and the health side, then but it's never too late,
Yeah, it's never too late. So our last question. Anybody watching this right now, and they want to pursue their own freedom, what advice would you give them?
Make the commitment. The bigger the commitment it is to you, to the people around you, the more courage you're going to have to go out and build the more courage you're going to have to go out and build the competency and the capabilities. So it all starts off with commitment. How did I learn this lesson? I paid a gentleman called Dan Sullivan $35,000. He's like 75, 80 years old. He teaches people how to think. I come from an Asian brand family background, bro. If I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I found this dude on the internet, he's 75 years old. I just wired him 35 grand and he's going to teach me how to think. My dad's going to give me a slap. Didn't I teach you how to think? But that guy has been training entrepreneurs for like 4 decades. So I do value some of the stuff he says. Not everything, but some of the things. And one of the things he said is, how do you shift your life? It starts off with a commitment. That the larger the commitment, the more courage is going to build up on you. The more courage you're going to have, you're going to go out and try new things, which is going to increase your levels of confidence. So commitment, courage, confidence leads into capabilities. You develop new skills. And anytime you get stuck, anytime listeners are watching and you get stuck, just ask yourself, what's the commitment I have right now? How do I expand that commitment? That commitment is going to lead me to take new action. That's where courage comes from. That courage is going to lead me to having more confidence. The more confidence I have, the newer the capabilities grow, right? So it's just the 4 C's. Just keep remembering that. For me, one of the frameworks I developed was a question I got, and it was, if I succeed, who around me benefits? So suddenly, it's not about you. It's about all the people around you. So if I succeed, my friends, my family members, the people I'm passionate about serving, entrepreneurs, spiritual leaders, everyone else can also benefit.
Great.
And the stronger the why, the bigger the why, the easier the how.
Stronger the why, the easier the how.
Wow.
Shakir, this has been an amazing dialogue. Love the values that you shared. I'm sure it was insightful, a lot of actionable stuff that people can take. And obviously we're brothers, so looking forward to seeing more of your success.
Appreciate it. I
And
appreciate
thanks for
it.
being on the show.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
brother.
And thanks for your time and energy watching this. If this was valuable, leave us a comment in the box below.